Hi, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for clicking. I'm so excited about this one today. I'm going to be trying out TotalBoat resin and giving you guys my 100% honest, authentic review. So I had TotalBoat kindly reach out to me and send me these two bottles. Sorry, they're a little bit dirty. They were in my art room, which is so kind. Like seriously, that's such a big portion of resin, and I'm so grateful that they wanted to send me this and trust my opinion in reviewing this. And I know you guys trust my opinion as well and what I'm going to say about this resin. Also, they gave me like the cutest hat. I'll put a photo of it here. I love it. I don't have it with me currently at my parents' place, but I'm obsessed with this hat, and when I have it I wear it all the time because it's so cute. So shout out to them for sending me that. Please make sure that you're wearing a respirator, goggles, you're protecting your lungs, skin, eyes, and you're working in a well ventilated area. Just please be really safe with this, okay? Because I don't want anything happening to you guys. Enough of my rambling, let's get into the video. I'm going to show you guys me making a couple of items with them, and then I will meet you back here for my review.
Before I get started, I really wanted to show you guys this pink silicone mat that I got so that I don't have to keep using garbage bags. It's just another more sustainable way to do resin. And so I poured the TotalBoat into this cup, and as you can see, it's definitely a lot thicker than resins I typically work with, but then I put it in hot water. I have a whole video on how I reduce bubbles in resin, so this is just me drying off the cups. And the hot water definitely thinned out the resin a lot, but yeah, definitely still thicker than anything I've worked with before. I set my timer and I worked for about 4 minutes mixing it together, using the heat gun periodically to pop any bubbles. And I really liked how clear this turned out already from mixing it. It just looked really nice, so I wanted to show you guys that. And then I started putting it in the molds. At first it said that this type of resin is supposed to be poured very thin on a flat surface, but I did ask the brand and they said it's okay to use this type of resin in molds even though it says tabletop epoxy. So then I just put my flowers and gold flakes and all of that into my bookmarks, and I also started working on some keychains. I wanted to try and make products that I make very often, which is bookmarks and keychains, to see how this resin was going to work with it. I had a lot of resin left over from the bookmarks and keychains. I accidentally mixed a little too much, so I decided to kind of experiment and see if I could make some ocean waves with all this leftover resin. So I poured it on this old piece that I had that I never really continued working with, and just started trying to make those cells and seeing how it would work. And I was loving how this was spreading. I thought it was super great to work with, and that is how it looked after the pour. So 24 hours later, I took everything out of the molds. It did say it has a total of a 72-hour cure time, but I just took them out after 24 hours and they were still hardened. And I loved this effect so much. It kept that white foam that I'm always trying to achieve with my waves that I never seem to be able to. So that was so amazing about TotalBoat resin, and I think I'm going to continue to use this resin, especially in my ocean work. I poured it on really thick and it stayed on thick, which you can see, like everything I poured on stayed exactly where I put it, which I loved because I find a lot of resins move around a lot during the curing process. Very impressed with this. I know that you guys have heard me talk about eye pins, but I'm going to mention it a bit later in the video. I am using them, so I just drilled into it and turned all of these into keychains and also put tassels on the bookmarks.
Okay, welcome back to the review portion of the video. I'm going to go over if I recommend this, how it was working with it, the bubbles, everything like that. We're going to talk about it all. Okay, so the first and most obvious thing I noticed about TotalBoat compared to art resin is I loved how like you know, stiff their resin cures. I find with art resin, even once it's cured, and not that a bookmark has to be like super straight or anything, but I find art resin kind of always has a bit of a bend, and I'm going to show you another example. But what I loved about TotalBoat is this has only been 24 hours and it actually has a 72-hour like full cure time, so this is going to get even harder over the next 2 days, and it's like still way more stiff than this one. So I really like that about the TotalBoat resin. Here's an example. I made one of those phone stands, if you've seen those going around, where you put this piece in and it's like a little phone stand. And with art resin, see how it kind of bent? So with art resin, it kind of just warped. And this was after it was fully cured. I just put my phone on it and it like couldn't handle the weight and it just started bending. So I really want to do another video with TotalBoat resin and try making one of these phone stands and seeing if it holds my phone up better, because I think it personally will. And I also am going to do another video with ocean waves as well. With the keychains themselves, I do notice they're already like so rock solid compared to how my keychains normally feel after 24 hours. And like I said, this is everything after 24 hours, so this hasn't even been a full 3 days, which is what it takes for this TotalBoat to fully cure. And I like how sturdy it is. I just think it's so nice. Especially really love TotalBoat, which I will use in the future, I think, for thinner items, because they tend to be more bendy. Like I find the keychains, it doesn't matter as much because they're usually pretty sturdy no matter which resin I use, but for things like notebook covers, bookmarks, things that are thinner, I really like the TotalBoat resin for that especially. I also felt like it wasn't as much effort to not get bubbles all around the edges. Like usually I have to go in with a toothpick and pick out all the bubbles, but with this I just poured it in and it turned out like almost perfect. Like there's barely any of those like little holes that sometimes happen on the edges of keychains. So that was the first and most obvious thing that I noticed about it, and it was just like so much more sturdy even within 24 hours, so it's only going to get stronger, which I really liked about it. Another thing that was really interesting to me about TotalBoat resin is that within like I want to say 4 to 5 hours of pouring it, it was already like hardened. Like I took that A out of the mold like really soon after I poured it, only a couple hours. I know I shouldn't have, but I was so excited and I wanted to see like if it could come out of the mold, and it could. And I find when I typically pour, nothing can even slightly come out of the mold until after 12 hours, just because it's still like almost in a liquid form. And with this, I found it was almost a solid within hours. So that was a really cool thing about it. Another tip is if you're going to take it out of the mold early though, make sure you're wearing gloves, because I put a little fingerprint in the letter A just because I took it out really early. The resin itself is a lot thicker than what I normally work with, and I typically, if you've seen my reducing bubbles in resin video, you'll know that I put all my resin in hot water before I work with it. A lot thicker, so that wasn't a bad or a good thing. It was just something that I noticed right away as soon as I started pouring. It did have less of a work time. Sometimes I can even get away with working with resin for almost an hour or 45 minutes, and with this my timer said 34 minutes and it was like done. Like I could not do much more with it, but I also think that's because I heat it first, so it definitely makes the resin cure even faster. So that was probably a contributing factor to keep in mind about how I did it. But yeah, I just felt like it had less of a work time, because even when I heat other resins, they still give me that 45 minutes or an hour, and I don't really think that 34 or 35 minutes isn't enough time. I think I would just like do it in smaller portions. So since I started pouring some bookmarks, they're very time consuming just because they're tedious with like placing the flowers and all of that. So it takes me quite a while. So I had a lot of resin left over, which is why I tried doing the waves with it, which turned out really nice. So just in the future, I would probably pour a little bit less resin at once, just so I don't have all this leftover stuff if I'm making smaller items. But yeah, nothing bad on the resin itself. I just noticed that it was curing a lot faster. I also think that it made really awesome ocean waves, and another thing I loved about it is once I poured it on, I did pour it on, keep in mind, like really close to when it was like already curing, but I loved how I could pour it on thick and it stayed thick. I find with a lot of resins, they kind of keep moving over time and they get thinner and thinner, and kind of like self-level, but not in the way you want. So I found with this one, I could pour it on really thick and it stayed thick, which was a really cool feature. As soon as I kind of like did the cells, they just stayed like that. They didn't move, they didn't it kind of keeps stretching, so I loved that a lot about this resin. And I'm gonna do another video soon of me trying ocean work with the TotalBoat resin, because I think it would actually work a lot better with the waves just because it's thicker resin itself. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm also gonna try making the phone stand with this as well. So this is not the last TotalBoat video you will see. For bubbles, I think it was kind of standard. I don't think it was like a crystal clear resin. I don't think it's classified as crystal clear. It didn't have a lot of bubbles though. I didn't have to work that hard to achieve that really clear look. I'll put in some clips here, of course, to show you guys what I mean, but overall it was just like average. I don't think it was full of bubbles or anything like that. I did feel like the keychains were easier to make with it because it didn't get all those bubbles in the corners that I usually have to dig out. I found it kind of just like poured, and it just poured really nicely. Just another note that I have here is that it was harder to drill into just because I found, like I said, the resin was so sturdy and like thick, and it was hardened so fast that the keychains were harder to drill into than normal, and that's not a bad thing at all. I actually really liked that because I felt like after 24 hours it was more sturdy and it was going to hold the eye pin in even better. I know I've been using the eye pins, and a lot of you in the comments are going to be like, are you okay? Like, we saw the drama that went down with your old stuff with the eye pins. So comment on my Instagram that made me laugh, where someone was like, you're using eye pins again, like, are you okay? And I was like, yes, I've been pre-drilling, and I actually got smaller drill bits than I'd ever had before, and I've been pre-drilling and using eye pins, and I've found that to be working really well. For the time being, like I've said a million times on this channel, I'm just learning with you guys as I go, so I'm not saying that everything I do is 100% set in stone, but I have been actually really liking the eye pins again lately, just because I bought smaller drill bits and I've been pre-drilling them, and they just seem like really sturdy. Because if you watch my old videos, I used to just like heat the top of the keychains and just hand like screw them in, which was actually so much harder. But yeah, I have been using them again, and I just found it a little bit harder to drill into, which I enjoyed because I felt like they were just super sturdy. That is my honest review about TotalBoat resin so far. I'm still going to do one more video about this, I think, and try it with my ocean work, but overall I love the cure time. I love how sturdy it is. I love how the thinner items actually cure like really solid. I found it easy to get a crystal clear effect, like it wasn't full of bubbles. Felt like it was really good to work with. I liked how it was kind of already starting to cure within a couple of hours, so that it's not in that liquid state for that long. I liked that it was a thicker resin so that it was easier to make ocean waves, and I just think that it was really nice to work with. Initially, when they told me it took 3 days to cure, I thought it was going to stay in like a liquid form for 3 days pretty much, and it doesn't at all. It actually cures faster than any resin I've ever seen, so if that's something, maybe if you have a lot of orders, it would be a good resin to consider, because you could make something and then take it out of the mold like really fast within hours and then keep filling the molds. Obviously take them out like really carefully and with gloves, but I think that would be nice. If I have a lot of orders, I think this resin would be so perfect for that, especially if I'm limited on how many molds I have for that. And of course, I just appreciate any brand that reaches out to me and like takes the time to wonder what my opinion will be, sends me stuff. I just think it is so kind and automatically has a good rating. I'm not getting paid to say this. This is my true honest opinion. I was not sponsored or paid to say this. This is just my authentic review, and I don't want to give you guys any opinion that I don't fully wholeheartedly believe. So would I recommend this resin? Absolutely. I really enjoyed working with it. If the things that I've pointed out about it are things that you think you would like, I would totally recommend this resin. It was awesome to work with, and I really appreciated getting the chance to try it out, because I just think it's so fun to try different products and see what's going to work best for you, because we all have different preferences when it comes to working with resin. And yeah, I really liked this one. And thank you so much to TotalBoat for reaching out to me. I absolutely adore your products. I loved working with this resin, and I really appreciate you valuing my opinion in this. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you're new, if you'd like to see more resin reviews, let me know if there's something you want me to try. I really enjoy doing these videos and kind of giving my opinion on things. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!